All right.
But she's not here today, but she should come.
Okay.
How's everyone? Had a good Thanksgiving?
Right.
But she's not here today.
Yes, yes, and you?
Yeah, I was working, but it's okay.
Oh, you were working.
Was it a quiet day?
It was, yeah,
Great.
fortunately.
Hariom Swamiji.
Good evening.
Good
Happy
evening.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
to you.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, yes. Good to see. I thought maybe 3 or 4 people will come.
Only
Quite
the serious devotees came.
Yes.
Okay.
And probably who did not have any place to go. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know. Yeah. Yes, good. Good to see you all. I hope you all had, better Thanksgiving than the previous year.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, Mrs. Mukherjee, it is 9 for you, right?
Yeah. Yes, Maharaj. Pranam. Happy
Yes.
Thanksgiving to all.
Yeah, how did you have your Thanksgiving in America?
It was in tremendous. I mean, all got together, everyone. So it was
New
very
Jersey
nice.
or New York?
Yeah, New Jersey.
New Jersey, okay. Good. Good. Yeah, so I shall be visiting New York for a week from next week. So we won't have 2 classes, the next Friday and the following. So the next class will be on December 17th. Okay. 2 consecutive weeks, I won't be here. Of course, you will get an email. Still, I am telling you. So 2 Fridays we will be missing.
Any homework?
Practice.
Yeah. Narada will give us today a homework. Okay. Narada will tell us the next 2 aphorisms we shall study. The second one, he will give us some homework. Okay. Who, and the aphorism is, who really crosses over this ocean of Maya? So he suggests or recommends 3 practices. So in next 2 weeks, that will be the homework, practicing 3 spiritual practice. Okay, that is the homework.
Good.
All right, so let's start. We shall start with chanting Durga Suktam, which we have learned to chant, if we may say so, all the verses. So today we shall chant it together, the entire Durga Suktam. And it's okay if we are not able to do it perfectly, but let's give a try. Okay. Okay, so let's try Durga Suktam. Om Jata Vedase Sunavama Soma Marati Ato Nidahati Vedaha Sana Parshadati Durgani Vishwa Naveva Sindhum Durita Tyagnihi Tamagnivarnam Tapasa Jalantim Vairochanim Karma Phaleshu Jushtaam Durgam Devigam Sharana maham prapadye. Sutarasi tarase namaha. Agne tvam paraya nabhyo asmant shasti virati durgani vishwa puscha prithvi bahula na urvi bhava tokaya tanaya samyoho vishani no durgaha jata veda sindhuna nava duritati parshi agne atrivan manasa grinano asmakam bodhavita tanuna pritana jitagam sahamanam ugramagnigam huvema paramat sadhasthaat sana parshadati durgani vishwa shamadevo ati duritatyagnihi pratnosi kamidyo adhvareshu sanacha hota nabhyascha satsi shancha agne tanuvam piprayas basmabhyam cha saubhaga mayajasva govir justa mayujo nishiktan tavendra Vishnor anusamcharema nakasya prishtamabhi sambasa no Vaishnavim loka iha madayantam. Om Katayanaya vidmahe Kanyakumari dhimahi Tanno Durgi prachodayat. Om. All right. So next time, from December 17th, we shall take up some other chanting. Let's see. We shall this time try to take an easier one. All right. This was a bit too tough. All right. So good evening, everybody, and also happy Thanksgiving. Narada Bhakti Sutra. So we are into that section of Narada Bhakti Sutras, where Narada first spoke about the spiritual practices for cultivating bhakti. And according to Narada, the chief or the most important practice for cultivating bhakti is having the right community or right company, which influences us and helps us to cultivate our bhakti. After having said the importance of having such company, such favorable company, he cautioned us to avoid unholy company. Unholy company means the company which takes us away from God or our spiritual idea. Not necessarily only people, but anything that is a hindrance for our spiritual ideal, that is unholy company. And unholy does not mean the person or people are not good. A person can be good, very good person, perfect moral, but may not be helpful in my spiritual pursuit. In that sense, that is not a holy company. Okay, so unholy does not mean that person is worthless or useless, or we should have contempt for them. No, because I am a spiritual seeker, for me, even if a person is good but takes me away, if they don't help me in my spiritual pursuit, that is still okay. But if they take me away from God, that is unholy company. And Narada says that they should be avoided. And in the previous aphorism, we saw that why we should avoid. Narada said, because from such association, desires and in its trail comes many tendencies in us or emotions, negative things, which are not conducive for spiritual practices. And that aphorism is completed today. Means the previous aphorism can better be understood with aphorism 45. We pose the question that what if I have a little company of undesired things or undesired people? What if a little bit of exposure to them, is it going to be so bad? So in this aphorism 45, Narada speaks about that. Tarangayita api ime sangat samudrayanti. Let's read it aloud together. Tarangayita api ime sangat samudrayanti. Wonderful expression. So api means although, ime, these are, tarangayita, taranga means waves. Although these are waves, sangat from association, samudrayanti, they become like an ocean. So these are, ime means what was referred to in the previous aphorism, that kama, krodha, smriti bhramsha, buddhinasa, sarvanasa, that is desire, its fulfillment, greed, or unfulfilled desire makes us angry. From that we forget what we know, we forget all the values. Then our intellect also fails, and then we no longer remain rational human being. That is how the things progress. So although these are waves from association, they become like an ocean. Okay. So these are, although these are waves, these means these tendencies, starting with desire, greed, anger. So what the purport of the aphorism is, these tendencies are present in all of us. In all of us, these are present like a ripple, a wave. And Patanjali in the yoga says that these are the kleshas. Kleshas means sources of pain, which give us trouble. Desire is the main thing. Desire, and then from desire sprouts other things. So these tendencies are present in all of us like a ripple in our mind lake. If we compare our mind with a lake, so these are always present like a ripple. But given appropriate conditions, such as a wind of unholy associations, these ripples become like great waves. That is, they even turn to mighty ocean. So in terms of how difficult they are to control, it is said that tarangaita means when they are like a wave in our mind, it is easy to control. But when they become like ocean, it is difficult to control. How they become ocean? Because influence of people, influence of sensory input over time subtly affect us. We don't understand how we are being influenced. Suddenly we realize that we have been overpowered by these tendencies. Sri Ramakrishna gives an example. Sri Ramakrishna was one day going to Fort William. Fort William was a fort, a military settlement, or military, we may say, high command of the British Empire. And the road, Fort William Street, is inclined street. Inclined, it has some inclination. And Sri Ramakrishna was going by carriage. He said that the inclination was gradual. So gradually I came down, and when I realized, I saw I came down a lot. So, and he said, this is what happens if we are not mindful enough. This is what happens, that gradually we go down and later come to know that such a great disaster could have been avoided had we been mindful from the beginning. Shankaracharya also in his Viveka Chudamani, verse number 325, gives the example of a ball, a football, which has been inadvertently dropped on the staircase. Then the ball bounces down from one step to another very quickly, gathers momentum. So Shankaracharya says, if the mind is slightly strays from the ideal and become outgoing, then it goes down and down. It becomes later on difficult to control. So this is what Narada is warning us, that improper company, improper association, this is what they do. Whatever inside us, they flare them up. So how unholy association really works? So as we have seen, we already have these tendencies, especially desires in our mind. And these desires and their fulfillment make us happy. They please, they are pleasant for our senses. But in day-to-day life, what happens? We try to keep them in check with our willpower. So many tendencies are playing, but we, with our rationality, with our willpower, we keep them under control. Or some of the desires may be lurking in us, but we are not even aware of them. But in unholy company, that is that appropriate type of company for this kind of tendencies, in those company, what happens? It appears to us that it is all right to indulge in those desires, or it is perfectly all right to pursue those desires. How this happens? Through the company, because that is the influence those people slowly make on us. We also imbibe their values and our willpower becomes weak. For example, if we take the extreme example of addiction to drugs, teenagers get addicted to drugs most of the cases from their association with friends who are already addicted to drugs. In those company, they then forget that it is not the right thing. They also first out of curiosity, and then in those companies that what they feel like it is all right because they are also taking, they are my friends, they are also taking, so it is all right to get addicted. So for anything, if we have that kind of association of company around us, slowly we shall feel it is all right to indulge in those things. So object of desires are pleasing, we become engrossed in them, and we try to forget God or our spiritual ideal, because it is a difficult thing. God, spiritual ideal, these are abstract things. Rather, these things of the senses which are perceptible, and that is why in the next aphorism we'll tell that is why this is a great Maya or mystery, that although God is here everywhere, but God's one manifestation is this entire world, which is so appealing to us, we forget one who is behind all those things. We try to forget a God and spiritual idea, and this is not conducive for cultivation of bhakti. But when we have sufficient bhakti, then we will not be able to, people won't be able to influence us when we are safe. But when we till we have terra firma, strong foundation, we should be careful about all those subtle influences that people play on us. Story of camel and sheikh, the sheikh, Arabian sheikh and camel. We all know that a sheikh was traveling through the desert with a camel, and at night the sheikh opened his tent and was sleeping within the tent. Suddenly the camel entered its nose, and then the sheikh thought, okay, only the nose. Then slowly the camel entered his head, his neck, entire body, and then kicked the sheikh, its master out. So slowly it started, later on it became uncontrollable. This is the reason why to cultivate bhakti, one should be careful about unholy association that makes us forget God or take us away from God as much as possible. So summary of this aphorism: since we all have desires and other not so good tendencies within us, unholy association flares them up and take us away from God. So one should be careful about unholy association. So with this aphorism, Narada concludes the topic of unholy association. First was keeping holy association, seeking holy association, but second was at the same time keep away as much as possible from unholy association. And we can choose ourselves, decide ourselves what is holy and what is unholy. Any association or anything that takes me towards my spiritual ideal is holy. That takes me away is unholy. So next aphorism is 46, where Narada is now summarizing again. Okay. Summarizing again what he has already told. So aphorism 46 is the longest aphorism so far. It's very long aphorism. Kastarati mayam yaha sangam tyajati yo mahanubhavam sevate nirmamo bhavati. Let's read it aloud. Kastarati mayam yaha sangam tyajati yo mahanubhavam sevate nirmamo bhavati. Kastarati, this phrase have been repetition. Kastarati means kaha tarati. Tarati means crossing over. Who crosses over? Who crosses over Maya? The answer is yaha, the one who tyajati, gives up sangam, attachment. Yo is same as yaha, the one who sevate, serves, mahanu bhavam, a great person, that is a holy person or a great devotee, bhavati, and the one who becomes nirmamo, free from egotism. Who crosses over? Who crosses over Maya? The one who gives up attachment, the one who serves a great person, and the one who becomes free from egotism. They cross over Maya. This is the answer. Answer to the question, who crosses over Maya? Okay. So in this aphorism and in the next 4 aphorisms, Narada summarizes the spiritual practices for bhakti. That is, he will not be introducing anything new. He kind of summarizes what he has already told. So who crosses over Maya? What is Maya? Maya is anything that prevents us from experiencing God. It's a barrier between me and my spiritual ideal, a veil. So anything that is prohibiting me or acting as a barrier to realize God, to love God fully, that is Maya. And in Indian spiritual literature, the Maya is often compared with an ocean. So as an ocean is difficult to swim over, so here also in this aphorism, in that sense, the word has been used, tarati. Tarati means who really can swim over. this ocean of Maya. Tarati. So why Maya is difficult to cross over? Because it is so natural. Our forgetting God or spiritual reality is very natural. And that is why it is also mysterious. Because it is mysterious, it is called Maya. That mysteriously we have such an treasure within us which we can realize, but surprisingly, we forget that thing. This is why the mystery is. Mystery at the same time, it is so natural that we think this is the reality. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse number 13, Sri Krishna says wonderful thing. He says, Trivhir gunamair bhaveir evhihi sarvam idam jagat mohitam na abhijanati mamebhyaha param abhayam. This is wonderful. Krishna, previous to this verse, he said that the entire universe is a mixture of two things. That is, my higher nature and my lower nature. Para-prakriti, apara-prakriti. Higher nature is the transcendental consciousness, and lower nature is whatever we are seeing. And this lower nature, so-called lower nature, is what has attributes, what is perceptible through our senses, through taste, through smell, through sound, through sight. But the higher nature, the conscious principle of God, is imperceptible through the senses. So when there are two things, one is perceptible, another imperceptible, naturally we are always attracted to these perceptible things, to such an extent that we lose sight of our higher nature, the transcendental reality. So either we are concerned with this universe, anything around us which is changing in nature, sound, color, form, smell, taste and touch, or we are concerned with our body, concerned with our mind, our thoughts, our feelings. Hardly we care about our higher nature. This whole world is wonderfully attractive, and we are carried away by them, and we are preoccupied by them, and this is called Maya. And that is why it is so difficult to cross over. Swami Vivekananda asked Sri Ramakrishna that, have you seen God? Sri Ramakrishna says, yes, I have seen God. I can show you to God. But who wants to see God? Who wants to see God? So we are carried away by these visible things. That is why Maya. How to resolve? Okay, what is the question? Yes, Narada will say how to resolve this issue. So what is the way out? Who can go beyond this Maya? Narada will be telling in the next 4 aphorisms, one by one. In this aphorism, he speaks about 3 spiritual practices. Who follow this, they can cross over this mysterious phenomenon called Maya, that is, this relative existence, this dependent existence, this existence of suffering and pleasure, not only pleasure but mixed with suffering. So what is the way out? 3 things. One is Sangam Tyajati, one who gives up attachment. Now the meaning of the word Sangam can be of 2 types. Okay, it can have 2 meanings. First meaning of Sangam is attachment to worldly objects. One who gives us worldly attachment to worldly objects. In that sense, Sangam. And can you recall which aphorism he is referring to? As I said, all the practices he will be mentioning, all of them has reference to previous aphorisms. Which aphorism he is here referring to? If we take the meaning of the word Sangam as attachment to worldly objects. So it is okay. Aphorism 35. We have read it not so long ago. Aphorism 35 said, Tattu Vishaya Tyagat Sangha Tyagacha. Sangha. The word came Sangha. So Tattu means Bhakti can be attained through letting go of sense pleasures and attachment to worldly objects. And we noted there, attachment blurs our vision. With blurred mind, we cannot see the reality. And an example I gave, the excessive attachment to any ideology makes us blind to other aspects of reality that we see every day. In all the parties, political parties, one is blinded by so much that cannot see the point in other ideology at all. Similarly, attachment to sense pleasures or worldly objects blur our vision for the transcendental reality. So those who can give up attachment to worldly objects, and we shall see what does it mean, giving up attachment. They can, one of the conditions of going or crossing over Maya. Whatever we are attached to reflect our values. If we are attached to worldly objects, that means they are valuable to us. So if we want to reach God, have bhakti for God, we have to have value for spiritual practices, God, spiritual growth. In that way, we can transcend our attachment to worldly objects. So how to give up attachment? First one, cultivating values for spiritual growth. Okay. For example, if we see kids are attached to their toys, but after some years, they become attached to other things, not toys. So how they could get rid of attachment to toys? The attachment for toys was replaced by attachment to something else. So attachment to spiritual growth, attachment to spiritual values, attachment to even spiritual practices. Okay. If we can develop that kind of attachment, then other attachment to worldly objects, we can leave behind. That is the royal path of giving up attachment. Second one, as we said, be careful about not growing or having strong liking for anything, strong liking. We said liking and strong liking. So raga and desha is nothing but strong liking and strong dislike. It is okay to like something. It is okay to dislike something. But when dislike and dislike become very strong, then they become sources of bondage. And that is attachment or aversion. This is, we have to go beyond. Second meaning of the word Sangam. Can anybody guess? The second meaning of the word Sangam. Yes, company. Which kind of company? Unholy company. Good. Very good. Aphorism 43. Aphorism 43. Narada said, Duh sangaha sarvatha eva tyajyaha. Unholy company must be avoided by all means. Sangaha means also company. Because as we have seen, unholy company takes us away from God. So this was Narada's one home task, homework. Okay. What? Try to give up attachment to worldly objects and try to keep away from unholy company. Second homework, yo mahanubhavam sevate. One who serves a great person. So great person we have seen means holy company, right? Holy company, holy book, holy ideas, anything that takes us towards God, uplifts us, which elevates our thinking. Sevate, serves. Serves means here, not literally just doing something. It really means being receptive to holy company. Sevate also can mean keeping holy company, or seeking holy company. That also might mean sevate. Take holy company. Take this medicine. In Sanskrit, sevate also means taking something. Okay. Take holy company regularly as an antidote for your worldliness. So, sevate. And really it means, the subtle meaning, or essentially it means not only keeping holy company, but being receptive to the influence of holy company. We should be able to receive from such company. Then we shall be benefited. So you can tell now which aphorism Narada is referring to. Which aphorism Narada is referring to by this phrase? The phrase is Mahanubhavam Sevate. Aphorism 38. 38 was in 38, Narada said, mainly bhakti comes from the grace of the great people alone, or from a bit of divine grace. Mukhatah tu mahat kripaya eva bhagavat kripa leshatma. From there comes the word mahanubhavam. Okay. Great people means not great in any other sense, but great devotee of God. Aphorism 44. Aphorism 38, sorry, aphorism 38, not 42. Aphorism 38. Mukhatah tu mahat kripaya eva bhagavat kripa leshatma. So, as I said, and we have discussed a lot, the value of holy company, how holy company acts on us and imperceptibly changes us for sure. And Narada said, holy company is amogha. Its result is unmistakable or infallible. It will have its effect on us even though we may not recognize it immediately. So Narada here says, first one, try to keep away from unholy company. Try to get rid of attachment to worldly objects, that is excessive liking for worldly objects. Second, try to seek holy company. Seek holy company and be receptive to holy company. And third one is nirmamo bhavati, one who becomes free from egotism. Nirmamo, mamo, the word is me and mine. Okay, strong sense of belonging, you know, I possess this. It is again is related to more fundamental concept of ego, means who we are. So if I am saying that I am a great professor, I am a, you know, educated, or any upadhis, any attributes, I am strongly identifying myself, that is mamata, that is being egotism. So this is a tough question. Can anyone correlate this idea of getting rid of egotism with any of the previous aphorisms? Well, aphorism 19. In aphorism 19, Narada said that what according to Narada, Bhakti is. Narada said, according to him, Bhakti is total surrender to God. Naradastu tad arpito akhilo acharata tat vismarane parama vyakulata iti. So, tad arpito akhilo acharata, that is complete surrender. This complete surrender means, as we saw, having a strong, intimate relationship with God. That is identity. Narada, so the aphorism means, Narada says Bhakti is surrendering everything to God and intense anguish upon not remembering God. Surrender to God means having an ego related to God. Okay, I am God's child, I am God's friend, I am a devotee of God, I am a lover of God. And if we have other strong egos, we cannot have that kind of identity related to God. Any other ego is barrier for intimacy. So that is the goal of bhakti, having an intimate relationship with God. And complete surrender to God is only possible when there is complete effacement of ego. Sri Ramakrishna said, two types of egos, unripe ego. I am such and such, connected with our perishable things of the world, perishable things. And ripe ego, I am God's child, I am a devotee, connected with imperishable reality. Unripe ego is what separates us from God. That is what Narada is mentioning here, nirmamo bhavati, that is transcending this unripe ego. And Bhakta's identity revolves around God. So one may say that how we can get rid of our ego, egoless. Then it will be, we will be just a passive thing, passive being. But as we see, one who surrenders one's ego, one who identifies with God's ego, they get tremendous courage and enthusiasm. Because then the devotee no longer thinks, I am this limited small thing, but there is God at my back. So that is the value of getting rid of unripe ego. The more we can get rid of unripe ego, the more we can relate ourselves with God. So the summary of this aphorism 46 is, the barrier that separates me from God, or the barrier that separates me from me and spiritual ideal, is not easy to cross over. 3 practices are necessary to cross this unsurmountable barrier. Number 1, giving up attachment for worldly objects by placing value on spiritual goals and spiritual practices. Keeping away from the company of people as much as possible who take me away from my spiritual ideal. Second, keeping holy company or community and being receptive to them, being receptive to their influence. And lastly, or thirdly, establishing our identity with relation to God. These are the 3 things Narada spoke about. He will speak about a few things more. And as I have mentioned, none of them are new. He will be just summarizing what he has already told so far. Okay, that we shall see later on December 17th, when we shall have our next class. All right. So now I am unmuting you. If you have any question, you may please unmute yourself and ask me. Kastarati, how is this divided? Kaha tarati. Kaha. Kaha tarati. According to rule of Sandhi, kaha tarati becomes kastarati.
I have a question. This seems very focused on ourselves. And I'm thinking of some other traditions where maybe there's an emphasis on other people. And I'm asking if we feel that God is in everyone. It might be to the benefit of the greater good to interact with these people who potentially could lead us away. And I'm thinking of a paradigm that's used to bring communities together where they have almost diametrically opposed ideas, and how it has been shown to bring them closer together and maybe to give up some of the ill feeling.
Has it helped them to develop bhakti?
I'm sorry?
Has it helped them to
No.
develop bhakti,
No,
devotion?
so I'm thinking that it doesn't really apply to the spiritual realm.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to put the context in this. We are now speaking about bhakti, and if we are one pointed about this devotion, so Narada, according to Narada and according to our experience too, that in the beginning, until our devotion is strong enough, we should save ourselves from unholy influences. Okay, because we may think that we shall transform others, but there is a danger of we ourselves being dragged down. Okay, as I told earlier, that Sri Ramakrishna gives the example that when it's a sapling, it should be hedged around. There should be fences around. After some time, when it becomes a tree, even an elephant can be tied to this tree. Okay, so we have to decide ourselves whether the company I am taking is really taking me away from God. If it is so, I should try to avoid that. How do we know when we have a good enough spiritual foundation? Yes, that is evident to ourselves. You know, when we will see that we are not perturbed by other company, perturbed by other company, other kind of people, then we can say that we are, of course, no time is, never we are safe enough, but still we can say that when others cannot influence my spiritual life, then we can say that we have enough spiritual foundation. Okay, what was the question before? Gita chapter 7. Mamevo ye prapaddante mayameta tarantite. Those who surrender to me cross over Maya. How to develop the spirit of surrender in practical daily life? We're connecting ourselves with God. Connecting ourselves with God. So surrender comes through practice. This surrender is also should be practiced in our every action. Thinking ourselves how we can remind ourselves or see ourselves connected with God. I am a devotee of God, child of God, whatever one feels like. Since Holy Company can also be a scripture holy book, what can be considered a service to Holy Company in the form of a scripture? Seeking the company of the scripture is called the service to Holy Company. By focusing on greater good, we are moving away from material things and elevating our thoughts. No, yes, of course. Of course it is good. Of course it is good to be engaged with others and do good things. That broadens our horizon, of course. But if such a company is taking me away from God, unholy association, we should take care of that. Okay. As I said in the earlier, the previous day, that how to reconcile this counsel with Upanishads, that Sarvam Khalidam Brahma, everything is God. Everyone is God. Okay, if everyone is God, every being is God, why should I keep myself away from that? Okay, the thing is, until we get to a point when we can appreciate this, that everyone is God, we shall keep this ideal in our mind, in our background. But again, same God manifesting in different ways through different people. If we have to be around unholy company, we can spiritualize aspects of that time spent. That is, be applying faith and strength, patience, and giving all actions and situations to God. Yes, of course, when we have no other options, then we have to resort to this kind of practices when, even in the presence of unholy company, how we can turn those moments into moments of spiritual practices. Okay. All right, very good. So see all of you on December 17th. Next class will be on December 17th. And now we shall have the meditation, guided meditation, after 1 minute of break. I shall take a break.